Welcome back to channel Sleep Beneath History, my friend. I'm so glad you are here with me tonight. Before we begin our quiet journey into the distant past, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment to share where you're listening from, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these peaceful history stories. Your support truly helps this little corner of calm continue to grow. Now make yourself comfortable. Settle into your favorite chair or rest your head gently on your pillow. Let your shoulders relax. Allow your breathing to become slow and steady. There is nowhere else you need to be. Nothing else asks for your attention. Tonight, we are leaving behind the busy world around us and traveling nearly 2,000 years into the past. Our destination is a kingdom that many people have never heard of, yet it quietly helped shape the history of Southeast Asia. It was known as the Kingdom of Funan. Imagine a warm morning long ago. The sun rises slowly above wide rivers that seem to stretch forever. Gentle mist floats over green wetlands. Birds call softly from tall trees. Small wooden boats drift across calm water while fishermen prepare their nets for another peaceful day. This is not the world of giant stone castles or crowded medieval cities. Instead, this is a land where rivers are roads, forests seem endless, and life moves with the rhythm of the seasons. As we begin our slow walk through this ancient kingdom, we will meet farmers working in flooded rice fields. We will watch merchants arrive from distant lands carrying colorful cloth, shining beads, spices, and stories from places thousands of miles away. We will visit wooden homes raised above the ground, hear the sounds of temple ceremonies, and discover how ordinary families spent their quiet days. The Kingdom of Funan existed many centuries before the famous temples of Angkor were built. Although time has hidden much of its story, careful discoveries by archaeologists and the writings of ancient travelers have allowed us to piece together gentle glimpses of this remarkable place. Our journey tonight is not about great battles or dramatic kings. Those moments existed, of course, but they are not the heart of our story. Instead, we will slow down and notice the ordinary moments that often disappear from history books. We will wonder what breakfast smelled like. We will imagine children playing beside quiet rivers. We will think about the sounds people heard each evening as darkness settled over their villages. Sometimes the smallest moments tell us the most about people who lived long ago. As the modern world grows quieter behind us, let us continue walking gently into the ancient landscape. The land of Funan was shaped by water. Water flowed almost everywhere. Rivers divided into smaller streams. Rain filled wide marshes during the wet season. The mighty Mekong River carried rich soil across enormous distances before spreading into broad lowlands near the sea. For the people who lived here, water was both friend and guide. It brought fish. It watered crops. It carried travelers. It connected villages that otherwise would have remained separated by thick forests. Even today, much of southern Cambodia and southern Vietnam remains closely connected to its rivers. 2,000 years ago, those waterways were even more important. There were very few roads as we think of them today. Instead, wooden boats quietly slipped through winding channels every day. Imagine standing beside one of those rivers just after sunrise. The morning air feels warm but comfortable. Tiny insects dance above the water. Long grasses bend gently in the breeze. A fisherman pushes his narrow canoe away from the muddy bank using a smooth wooden pole. He does not hurry. There is no loud engine. Only the quiet splash of water. Nearby, another family prepares baskets filled with fruit to carry toward a market farther downstream. Children wave to passing boats. Dogs bark for a moment before returning to sleep beneath the shade of palm trees. Life moves slowly. Nature sets the pace. This peaceful relationship with water helped Funan become one of the earliest great kingdoms in Southeast Asia. But if we looked around carefully, we might not immediately realize that we were standing inside an important kingdom at all. There were no giant stone walls stretching across the land. There were no towering castles visible from miles away. Instead, power often rested quietly within busy river ports, trading centers, and royal settlements built mostly from wood. Wood was abundant. Large trees covered much of the region. Homes, meeting halls, docks, workshops, bridges, and even many temples were built using timber, bamboo, and thatch gathered from nearby forests. Because wood slowly disappears over hundreds of years, very little remains today. Stone can survive for thousands of years. Wood cannot. That is one reason why Funan feels mysterious to modern historians. Many buildings have simply returned to the earth. Only scattered objects remain beneath the soil. A broken clay pot, a tiny gold ornament, pieces of jewelry, old coins, fragments of pottery. Each discovery tells only a small part of a much larger story. Archaeologists patiently place these pieces together, almost like assembling an enormous puzzle with many missing parts. Fortunately, another source of information has survived. Ancient travelers. Several visitors from China recorded what they heard about Funan during the early centuries of its history. Some traveled themselves. Others gathered reports from merchants and ambassadors who had visited the kingdom. Their descriptions are not perfect. Sometimes they misunderstood local customs. Sometimes they repeated stories without seeing them personally. Yet together, their writings offer precious windows into a civilization that otherwise might have faded almost completely from memory. Imagine those travelers arriving after many weeks aboard sailing ships. The coastline appears slowly on the horizon. Dense forests reach almost to the sea. Smoke rises gently from cooking fires. Small boats paddle toward the newcomers. Voices speak unfamiliar languages. The visitors step ashore carrying gifts for local rulers, along with letters from distant emperors. Everything around them feels wonderfully different. Different foods, different clothes, different weather, different customs. Yet trade creates its own language of friendship. A merchant smiles. A gift is exchanged. Business begins. This exchange of goods would eventually make Funan famous across much of Asia. Ships came from India. Ships came from China. Ships sailed through island kingdoms that today are part of Indonesia and Malaysia. Some continued west toward Persia and even farther beyond. Although the people of Funan may never have imagined the enormous world connected to them, they stood at one of its most important crossroads. The sea brought more than goods. It brought ideas, religions, stories, new technologies, different styles of art. Languages mixed together in busy ports. Merchants learned enough words from one another to trade successfully. Children growing up near these ports may have heard conversations spoken in several different languages every single day. Imagine sitting beside the waterfront as evening approaches. A sailor from India tells stories about cities filled with magnificent temples. Another traveler speaks about the distant lands of China, where enormous rivers flow between crowded towns. A local fisherman listens with quiet curiosity while repairing his net. Perhaps he never plans to leave his village. Yet through these visitors, the wider world quietly enters his evening. History often remembers famous rulers. But kingdoms truly grow because ordinary people meet one another. One conversation, one trade agreement, one shared meal, one small act of trust. Again and again, year after year, generation after generation. As darkness settles over the river, lanterns begin glowing inside wooden homes. Families gather together after a long day. Rice cooks slowly over small fires. Fish fresh from the river fills the evening air with a gentle smoky aroma. Parents tell stories while children grow sleepy beside them. Outside, frogs begin their nightly songs. Crickets answer from the grass. Above everything, countless stars appear across the clear tropical sky. Perhaps someone looks upward and quietly wonders whether people living beneath those same stars in distant lands are also ending their day. Without realizing it, they are connected. Connected by rivers. Connected by ships. Connected by curiosity. And connected by the quiet flow of history. As our own evening grows deeper, let us continue our gentle journey. Soon we will discover how this remarkable kingdom may have first begun, through one of Southeast Asia's most beautiful legends, a story of a foreign traveler, a fearless queen, and the meeting of two very different worlds. That story, passed down for centuries, is where we shall continue our peaceful walk next. As the night grows a little quieter, let us continue our slow journey. The stars remain above us, shining softly over the warm waters of the Mekong Delta. A gentle breeze moves through the leaves of tall palm trees. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls into the darkness. The river continues its endless journey toward the sea, just as it has for thousands of years. Tonight, we are about to hear one of the oldest stories connected to the Kingdom of Funan. No one can say with complete certainty exactly how Funan began. The truth has been hidden by time. The people who first built this kingdom left very few written records of their own. Most of what we know comes from later visitors and from careful archaeological discoveries beneath the earth. Yet even when history becomes uncertain, stories remain. And sometimes those stories tell us how people wish to remember their beginnings. Imagine the sea many centuries ago. The water stretches in every direction. A wooden sailing ship rises and falls gently with each passing wave. Its sail catches the warm wind blowing from the west. The crew has spent many weeks crossing the Bay of Bengal, stopping at distant ports, following the stars, the winds, and the changing seasons. Among them is a traveler named Kondinya. According to ancient tradition, Kondinya was a learned man from India. Some stories describe him as a prince. Others say he was a holy man or a respected leader. Whatever his true background may have been, the legend tells us that he carried with him not only supplies for a long voyage, but also hope for a new future. Before leaving home, the story says, Kondinya received a dream. In that dream, a divine being presented him with a magical bow and encouraged him to sail eastward across the sea. Dreams held great meaning in many ancient cultures. People believed that the gods could guide travelers, kings, and ordinary families through signs seen during sleep. Whether this dream truly happened or not, it reminds us how important faith and destiny were to people long ago. So imagine Kondinya standing quietly on the deck before sunrise. The sky begins to brighten. The stars slowly disappear. The crew adjusts the ropes. The ship continues toward unknown shores. No one aboard knows exactly what waits ahead. Every journey into the unknown carries both excitement and uncertainty. After many days, land finally appears. Green forests rise beyond sandy beaches. Wide rivers flow into the sea. The air smells different now. Warmer, more humid, filled with the scent of growing plants and fresh water. Birds circle overhead. The sailors smile with relief. Their long voyage is nearly over. But according to the legend, they are not greeted with peaceful welcomes. Instead, another boat approaches. It moves quickly across the water. Standing at its front is a powerful local ruler. Her name is Soma. Many versions of the story call her a queen. Others describe her as the daughter of a family that ruled the region. Some legends even say She belonged to a people connected with the ancient serpent spirits known as Nagas. In Southeast Asian traditions, Nagas were not simply snakes. They were sacred beings closely connected with rivers, lakes, fertility, and protection. Since rivers shaped nearly every part of life in Funan, it is not surprising that such spirits became part of the kingdom's oldest stories. Imagine Queen Soma standing proudly in her beautifully carved wooden boat. Her people know these waters better than anyone. They have lived beside these rivers for generations. They know every channel, every hidden sandbank, every changing current. The foreign ship approaching from across the sea is something unfamiliar. Should it be welcomed? Should it be feared? Or should it be challenged? The old legend tells us that Soma and her followers sailed out to confront the newcomers. Some versions even describe them as sea raiders, accustomed to taking goods from passing ships. Whether that detail is true or simply part of the legend, we cannot know. Stories often become more colorful as they pass from one generation to another. What matters is what happens next. As the two groups meet upon the water, tension fills the air. The local boats surround Kaundinya's vessel. The sailors grip their ropes. Everyone waits. According to the story, Kaundinya lifts the magical bow given to him in his dream. He draws the string. He releases a single arrow. The arrow flies through the morning air and strikes Queen Soma's boat. Not the queen herself, only the vessel. It passes through the wood with such remarkable force that everyone watching is astonished. Silence follows. The queen realizes that this visitor possesses unusual strength, or perhaps divine protection. Rather than continue the conflict, she chooses another path. She agrees to make peace. Soon afterward, the legend says, Kaundinya and Soma are married. It is a simple ending to what could have become a violent meeting. But the meaning behind the story reaches much deeper. Many historians believe this legend symbolizes something very important. Not conquest, not destruction, but connection. The marriage may represent the meeting of two different cultures, one already living in Southeast Asia, the other arriving from India through peaceful trade and travel. Instead of one replacing the other, they slowly blend together. Ideas are shared. Religious beliefs mix. Languages borrow new words. Art changes little by little. Families grow together. A new kingdom begins to take shape. This peaceful blending can still be seen throughout Southeast Asia today. Indian writing systems influenced local alphabets. Religious ideas from Hinduism and Buddhism spread gradually through merchants and teachers rather than large armies. Kings adopted Indian titles while still honoring local traditions. Artists carved familiar local animals besides symbols brought from distant lands. Nothing changed overnight. History almost never works that way. Instead, change arrived quietly, like rain filling a river one drop at a time. Imagine the wedding described in the legend. There is no great stone palace. Instead, colorful fabrics hang from wooden buildings. Flowers decorate simple pathways. Families prepare large meals together. Musicians play gentle rhythms using drums, flutes, and stringed instruments. Children laugh as they chase one another between the houses. The smell of roasted fish, fresh rice, tropical fruits, and fragrant herbs fills the warm afternoon air. Guests from different lands exchange smiles despite speaking different languages. Some wear Indian robes. Others wear local woven cloth. Jewelry shines softly in the sunlight. Gold bracelets catch the eye. Colorful beads from distant trading ports sparkle around graceful necks. Some gifts have traveled farther than anyone present. Tiny glass beads may have crossed entire oceans, before reaching this celebration. Imagine holding one of them in your hand, small enough to rest upon your fingertip, yet it carries within it the story of thousands of miles of travel. One tiny object, one enormous journey. That is the world Funan belonged to. A world connected by water, by curiosity, and by peaceful exchange. Whether Condinya and Soma truly lived exactly as the legend describes is something historians still discuss today. Perhaps parts of the story happened. Perhaps other parts grew through centuries of storytelling. Legends often carry both memory and imagination together. Even so, this beautiful tale reminds us of something timeless. Many great civilizations are born not only through power, but through cooperation, through learning, through friendship, through people willing to understand someone different from themselves. That lesson feels just as gentle today as it must have felt long ago. As evening returns once more to our quiet kingdom, the celebration slowly comes to an end. Lanterns flicker beside the river. Families paddle home beneath the stars. The musicians pack away their instruments. The cooking fires burn lower. Only the peaceful sounds of insects and flowing water remain. Somewhere in the darkness, a child falls asleep after hearing the story of Condinya and Queen Soma for perhaps the very first time. That child cannot know that the tale will still be remembered nearly 2,000 years later. And neither, perhaps, could the storytellers themselves. As our own peaceful journey continues, we shall soon leave behind the world of legend and begin exploring what daily life in the growing kingdom of Funan may truly have looked like. Walking slowly through its villages, meeting its people, and discovering how an ordinary morning began in one of Southeast Asia's earliest kingdoms. As the story of Condinya and Queen Soma gently fades into the background, let us return to the quiet world of everyday life. Whether every detail of that ancient legend is true or not, one thing is certain. By the first centuries of the Common Era, the Kingdom of Funan had become a real and thriving place. Villages had grown into busy communities. Trade connected distant lands. Families built homes beside rivers that carried both food and opportunity. Tonight, we are not visiting a royal court. Instead, let us spend a peaceful day with ordinary people. Imagine that it is just before dawn. The sky is still deep blue, and only the brightest stars remain visible. The air feels pleasantly cool after the warmth of the previous day. A light mist rises from the river, drifting slowly across the fields. Everything is quiet. For a few precious moments, the entire village seems to be asleep. Then, little by little, the world begins to wake. A rooster calls from somewhere nearby. Another answers from across the village. Small birds flutter among the branches of fruit trees, greeting the new morning with cheerful songs. Insects that sang through the night slowly grow silent as daylight begins to spread across the land. Soft smoke rises from the first cooking fires. Someone has already begun preparing breakfast. The smell of burning wood mixes with the fresh scent of wet earth. It is a familiar smell, one that the people of Funan would have known every single day of their lives. Imagine walking along a narrow path through the village. The ground beneath your feet is firm but slightly damp from the night's moisture. Tall grasses brush gently against your legs. Banana trees spread their broad green leaves toward the sky, while coconut palms sway lazily in the morning breeze. Ahead you see the first homes. They do not sit directly on the ground. Instead, they stand upon strong wooden posts. These raised houses are one of the clever answers people have found to living beside rivers. During the rainy season, water can rise quickly. Floods are a natural part of life here. By lifting their homes above the ground, families protect themselves from rising water, damp soil, and many unwanted animals. Beneath each house is an open space. During the hottest hours of the afternoon, this shaded area becomes a comfortable place to work or rest. Chickens wander through the cool shade, searching for insects. A curious dog stretches lazily before following its owner. Wooden ladders lead up to the living area. The walls are woven from bamboo or built from smooth wooden planks. The roofs are covered with layers of dried palm leaves or thick grass, carefully arranged to keep out the heavy tropical rains. Nothing is wasted. Every part of the nearby forest offers useful materials. Wood becomes beams. Bamboo becomes walls and baskets. Palm leaves become roofs. Vines become rope. Nature provides nearly everything needed to build a home. Inside one of these houses, a family is beginning its day. The grandparents are already awake. Years of habit have taught them to rise with the first light. The grandmother gently stirs a clay pot over a small fire. Rice has been soaking since the evening before. Soon it will become the first meal of the day. Nearby, fish caught yesterday are being warmed again over glowing coals. Perhaps a little salt has been added. Maybe a handful of fragrant herbs gathered from the garden. Nothing extravagant. Simply nourishing food prepared with care. The grandfather steps outside carrying a woven basket. Today he plans to inspect the family's fishing traps before the river becomes busy with boats. He pauses for a moment to watch the sunrise. Golden light slowly spreads across the water. The river changes color almost every minute. From deep blue to soft purple to glowing orange, until finally it reflects the bright gold of the rising sun. It is a beautiful sight, one that no one grows tired of seeing. Inside the house, children begin to wake. The youngest rubs sleepy eyes while listening to the familiar sounds of breakfast being prepared. An older sister helps fold sleeping mats that covered the wooden floor during the night. Life teaches responsibility early. Every member of the family has something to contribute. Even small children learn by watching older brothers, sisters, parents, and grandparents. There may be no written schedule hanging upon a wall. There are no clocks counting every passing minute. Instead, the day follows the rhythm of nature. When the sun rises, work begins. When the heat becomes strongest, people slow down. When evening comes, families gather once more. The seasons guide nearly everything. As breakfast is served, everyone sits close together. There are no tall dining tables. Meals are simple and shared. Rice is placed into bowls made from wood or fired clay. Pieces of grilled fish are divided fairly among everyone present. Fresh fruits such as bananas or coconuts may be added when available. Sometimes vegetables from nearby gardens complete the meal. Conversation is quiet. No one rushes. The children listen while the older members of the family discuss the day's work. Perhaps one field needs repairing after heavy rain. Perhaps a merchant boat is expected later today. Perhaps relatives from another village will arrive before sunset. Life is planned one day at a time. After breakfast, everyone begins moving in different directions. The father shoulders a wooden tool used for working in the rice fields. His oldest son walks beside him, eager to learn the skills that generations before him have practiced. The mother gathers baskets woven from bamboo. She will spend part of the morning tending vegetables and preparing food for later in the day. The grandmother remains near the house. She watches the youngest children while continuing to spin thread from plant fibers. Her hands move almost without thought. Years of practice have made every movement smooth and steady. The grandfather disappears toward the river carrying his fishing equipment. Each person contributes. Each task matters. There are no unimportant jobs. The kingdom depends not only upon kings and merchants, but upon countless ordinary families quietly doing their work each day. Imagine following the father toward the rice fields. The path leads through open land, where morning sunlight now shines brightly across shallow pools of water. Ahead, wide green fields stretch almost to the horizon. Rice is one of the greatest treasures of this land. Without it, villages could not grow. Without it, cities could not exist. Growing rice requires patience. It begins with careful preparation of the fields. Water must be guided into the right places. Young rice plants must be transplanted at just the right time. Weeds must be removed. The growing plants must be protected from hungry birds and insects. Then comes waiting. Nature decides the final harvest. Some years are generous. Others are more difficult. Every farmer understands that success depends upon working together with the land, rather than trying to control it completely. You notice several families already working in neighboring fields. They greet one another warmly. A friendly wave, a smile, perhaps a few quiet words. Although each family owns or tends its own fields, neighbors often help one another during the busiest seasons. When planting begins, many hands make the work lighter. When harvest arrives, entire communities sometimes work side by side. Cooperation is simply part of village life. Children who are too young for heavy work chase small birds away from the rice. They laugh as they wave long strips of cloth attached to sticks. The birds fly away for a moment before returning once the children become distracted. It is an endless little game played across generations. Nearby, a water buffalo stands patiently in the muddy field. Strong, gentle, unhurried, its broad feet sink easily into the wet earth without becoming trapped. The animal slowly pulls a simple wooden plow, while its owner guides it with calm, familiar words. The buffalo does not rush. Neither does the farmer. There is no reason to hurry. The work will take as long as it takes. The sun climbs a little higher. The air grows warmer. Sweat forms upon tired faces. Yet no one complains. This rhythm has shaped life for countless generations. As we continue our peaceful walk through the growing kingdom of Funan, we are beginning to understand something important. Its true strength was not found only in its rulers or its trade. It lived in quiet mornings like this one, in families sharing breakfast, in neighbors helping each other, in farmers patiently caring for the fields, in children learning by watching their elders. These simple moments, repeated day after day, season after season, became the foundation upon which an entire kingdom quietly flourished. And as the morning sun climbs higher into the tropical sky, we shall continue our gentle journey toward the great rivers themselves, where fishermen, traders, and travelers are already beginning another peaceful day upon the water. As the warm morning continues, let us leave the rice fields behind for a little while. The farmers remain quietly at their work. The water buffalo moves steadily through the soft earth. Birds circle overhead, searching for insects among the young rice plants. The voices of neighbors drift gently across the fields before fading into the distance. Ahead of us, the land begins to slope ever so slightly. Soon we hear a familiar sound. Not the crashing of waves or the roar of a waterfall. Only the calm, endless whisper of a slow-moving river. For the people of Funan, this river is far more than a beautiful sight. It is a road, a marketplace, a source of food, a meeting place, a teacher, and in many ways, the very heart of their world. Imagine standing on the muddy riverbank. The morning mist has almost disappeared now, and the sunlight dances across the surface of the water. Every ripple catches the light for just a moment before drifting away. Small fish occasionally leap above the surface, creating tiny circles that spread quietly outward. The air smells fresh. There is the scent of wet reeds growing along the shore, the earthy smell of river mud, the faint sweetness of flowering plants nearby, and carried gently on the breeze, the aroma of cooking fires from villages hidden among the trees. A narrow wooden canoe rests beside the bank. Its smooth sides have been carefully carved from the trunk of a large tree. It is simple, strong, reliable. Many families own one like it. Others share boats with relatives or neighbors. Without these small vessels, everyday life would become much more difficult. Imagine climbing carefully into one of them. The boat rocks gently beneath your feet before settling once again. A fisherman smiles kindly and offers you a place to sit. He pushes away from the bank using a long wooden pole. Slowly, almost silently, the canoe begins to glide across the water. The village soon slips behind you. The only sounds now are the soft splash of the pole, the distant calls of birds, and the quiet movement of the river itself. The fisherman has traveled these waters since he was a child. Long before he could guide the boat himself, he sat beside his father and grandfather, watching every movement. He learned where the water runs deepest, where fish gather during different seasons, which channels remain safe after heavy rains. Knowledge like this cannot be learned from books. It lives in memory, passed gently from one generation to the next. As you drift farther downstream, you begin to notice that the river is already becoming busy. Another canoe appears around a bend. Inside sits a woman carrying woven baskets filled with fresh vegetables. Bananas rest carefully beside bundles of leafy greens. A clay jar filled with palm sugar is tucked securely beneath a cloth to protect it during the journey. She smiles as she passes. No words are necessary. People along the river recognize one another, even if they belong to different villages. A little farther ahead, two young brothers paddle together. Their canoe is filled with bundles of freshly cut bamboo. The long green poles will become walls for a new house, perhaps a bridge, or maybe baskets for carrying grain. Every journey along the river carries something useful. Food, wood, clay, fishing nets, ceramics, fruit, or simply news from neighboring communities. In a world without letters delivered every day, news travels with people. A traveler may bring word of a successful harvest. Another may announce a wedding. Someone else may quietly tell of a family welcoming a new child into the world. The rivers carry stories just as surely as they carry boats. The fisherman beside you suddenly becomes very still. He raises one hand. The canoe slows almost to a stop. Without speaking, he points toward the water. You look carefully. At first, you see nothing. Then just beneath the surface, a shadow moves. A school of fish. Their silver bodies flash for only a moment before disappearing again. The fisherman gently lowers a woven net into the water. He does not throw it with great force. Everything is calm, practiced, patient. Fishing is not simply a matter of luck. It requires understanding. The river changes every day. The water rises and falls with the seasons. Fish move according to temperature, rainfall, and the growth of underwater plants. Experienced fishermen notice details that others might never see. A slight change in the current. Birds circling above a particular place. Tiny bubbles rising from beneath the surface. Each sign tells part of the river's quiet story. As you continue downstream, the banks begin to widen. The river grows broader. Soon, larger boats come into view. Unlike the small family canoes, these vessels are built to carry heavy loads. Their hulls sit lower in the water because they are filled with cargo. Some carry sacks of rice. Others transport pottery stacked carefully inside woven baskets. One boat is loaded with timber cut from distant forests. Another carries clay jars sealed with wax, their contents hidden from curious eyes. Perhaps they contain fragrant oils. Perhaps fermented fish sauce. Perhaps precious spices collected from islands farther south. Trade is already beginning long before the marketplace comes into sight. The Kingdom of Funan owes much of its success to these waterways. Long before modern highways or railroads, rivers connected hundreds of communities. A journey that might take several difficult days on foot could often be completed much more easily by boat. Water did the hard work. The current helped carry goods. The river linked strangers who would otherwise never meet. In time, these quiet connections helped Funan grow into one of the most important trading kingdoms in Southeast Asia. Imagine looking far into the distance. A sail appears on the horizon. Unlike the small local boats, this vessel is much larger. Its tall mast rises proudly above the water. The cloth sail catches the wind, pulling the ship steadily inland. The crew has traveled from another kingdom. Perhaps they have sailed from the coast of India. Perhaps from lands farther east. Perhaps from another port somewhere among the islands that today make up Indonesia. The exact destination matters less than the journey itself. Every arriving ship brings something new. Bundles of colorful cloth. Glass beads that sparkle in the sunlight. Fine metal tools. Beautiful jewelry. Exotic spices with unfamiliar scents. Ivory. Perfumes. Medicines. And perhaps most valuable of all, ideas. The captain of the ship may speak a language that few local people understand. Yet trade has a remarkable way of overcoming differences. Smiles help. Gestures help. Shared experience helps. Someone always knows enough words to begin a conversation. Piece by piece, understanding grows. Imagine the excitement felt by children watching such a ship arrive. To them, it must seem almost magical. The sailors wear unfamiliar clothing. Some have darker skin, others lighter. Their hairstyles are different. Their accents sound strange. The goods they unload seem wonderfully mysterious. Perhaps one child sees a shiny glass bead, unlike anything found in the village. Its bright blue color catches the sunlight so beautifully that it almost seems to glow. That tiny object has crossed seas and storms before reaching these quiet riverbanks. One small bead. Thousands of miles. An entire world connected through peaceful exchange. Nearby, local merchants prepare to welcome the newcomers. Scales are brought out for weighing goods. Bundles are untied. Clay seals are carefully inspected. Conversations begin. Prices are discussed with calm voices and patient smiles. No one appears hurried. Trade takes time. Trust grows slowly. Many merchants have met before. Over the years, they have learned each other's customs. One offers tea. Another shares fresh fruit. Business and hospitality walk together. The people of Funan understand that successful trade depends not only on wealth, but on good relationships. A fair exchange today may lead to many more tomorrow. As the sun climbs toward midday, the river becomes even busier. Boats pass one another in every direction. Some head toward the sea. Others return inland. Each carries its own small story. A fisherman bringing home the morning's catch. A potter delivering freshly fired bowls. A family traveling to visit relatives. A merchant beginning another long voyage. All of them are connected by the same flowing water. And as we drift gently along beside them, it becomes clear that the rivers of Funan were never simply rivers. They were living pathways, quiet threads that tied together villages, markets, families, and distant kingdoms. Without them, Funan would have been a very different place. With them, it became a crossroads where the wider world met the peaceful rhythms of everyday life. As the warmth of midday begins to settle across the land, our little canoe slowly approaches one of the kingdom's lively river ports. From a distance, we can already hear the gentle murmur of many voices. The marketplace is waking into its busiest hours. There, among baskets of fruit, fragrant spices, shining pottery, and merchants from lands both near and far, another peaceful chapter of life in the Kingdom of Funan is waiting for us. As our little canoe follows the gentle current, the quiet sounds of the open river slowly begin to change. The water is still calm, but now many voices drift across its surface. Someone laughs. A child calls to a friend. Wooden boats bump softly against one another as they arrive at the docks. The peaceful silence of the countryside gives way to the gentle rhythm of a busy morning. Ahead of us, the riverbank widens into one of Funan's trading ports. This is not a city of towering stone buildings. Instead, it is a place built from timber, bamboo, woven reeds, and careful craftsmanship. Long wooden docks stretch into the river. Large cargo boats rest beside smaller family canoes. Workers move carefully along the planks, balancing baskets upon their shoulders. Nobody appears rushed. There is work to be done, but there is also time to greet old friends. Imagine stepping out of the canoe onto the wooden dock. It creaks softly beneath your feet. The warm sun shines overhead, yet a pleasant breeze still blows across the river, keeping the air comfortable. Nearby, a group of merchants is unloading sacks of freshly harvested rice. Each sack is tied with strong woven rope. The workers lift them with practiced movements, placing them neatly beneath a shaded shelter where they will remain dry until trading begins. A few steps farther along, another boat carries bundles of fragrant wood. The logs are carefully stacked one upon another. Some will become beams for houses. Others may be carved into furniture, boats, or beautiful decorative objects. Nothing from the forest is wasted. Even the smallest pieces of wood may later become cooking fuel or handles for tools. The people of Funan understand the value of every resource around them. As you continue walking, the marketplace begins to unfold before your eyes. There are no permanent stone shops with glass windows. Instead, merchants arrange their goods beneath simple wooden shelters covered with palm leaf roofs. Some spread woven mats directly upon the ground. Others display their treasures upon low wooden tables. Everything feels open, friendly, welcoming. The marketplace is more than a place to buy and sell. It is where people meet, where news is exchanged, where friendships grow stronger, where strangers become familiar faces over many years. The first stall you notice belongs to a potter. Rows of clay bowls sit neatly arranged in the sunlight. Some are plain and practical. Others have simple carved patterns around their edges. There are large jars for storing grain, small cups for drinking, cooking pots blackened slightly from earlier firings. The potter gently taps one bowl with his finger. It produces a clear ringing sound. He smiles with quiet satisfaction. A well-fired pot is something to be proud of. Nearby, another family displays woven baskets of every shape and size. Tiny baskets for carrying fruit, large baskets for rice, strong fishing traps woven so carefully that fish may enter but cannot easily escape. Each basket represents many hours of patient work. Long strands of bamboo have been split into thin strips. each strip bent, crossed, pulled tight, again and again, until something both useful and beautiful has appeared. Imagine watching the basket maker's hands. They move without hesitation, almost without thought. Years of experience guide every motion. Perhaps a young child sits beside them, watching carefully. Not yet old enough to weave alone, but learning, always learning. Knowledge in Funan is often shared through watching rather than reading. Children grow into skilled adults by observing countless small movements repeated every day. As we wander farther through the market, wonderful smells begin to fill the warm air. Freshly cooked rice, grilled river fish, roasted yams, sweet bananas, coconut milk warming gently in clay pots. Someone is preparing rice cakes wrapped carefully inside green leaves. Another cook stirs a fragrant soup filled with vegetables gathered only hours before. The smells drift together in a comforting cloud. Even travelers arriving from distant lands recognize something familiar. A warm meal. Simple food has always been one of humanity's greatest comforts. Imagine sitting beneath the shade of a large tree with a small wooden bowl in your hands. A friendly cook serves steaming rice alongside freshly grilled fish, seasoned with herbs gathered nearby. Perhaps there is a little fermented fish paste, rich in flavor, used carefully to season the meal. Fresh cucumber cools the palate. Slices of ripe mango provide a gentle sweetness at the end. There are no elaborate feasts today. Only honest food prepared with care. Every bite reflects the rivers, fields, forests, and gardens that surround the kingdom. While people enjoy their meals, conversations continue all around. An elderly merchant tells stories about storms he survived many years ago while sailing across the sea. Young traders listen with wide eyes. Nearby, two women compare this year's rice harvest with last year's. One fisherman proudly describes the enormous fish that escaped his net just yesterday. Everyone laughs gently. Stories become larger each time they are told. Perhaps the fish grows a little longer with every retelling. Such friendly exaggerations are as old as storytelling itself. Not all the people here were born in Funan. That is one of the most fascinating things about this marketplace. Look carefully around you. One merchant wears light cotton robes in a style common in India. Another visitor has traveled from lands farther north, bringing silk cloth carefully folded inside wooden chests. A sailor from an island kingdom speaks with an accent unfamiliar to local ears. His boat carries fragrant spices collected from forests far across the sea. Although their languages differ, everyone shares the same desire: to trade fairly, to earn an honest living, to return home safely. Imagine hearing fragments of many different languages carried gently upon the breeze. Some words are completely unfamiliar. Others have slowly become part of everyday speech through years of contact. Language changes quietly. A useful word borrowed today may still be spoken generations later. This peaceful exchange of ideas shapes cultures just as surely as trade shapes economies. Nearby, a goldsmith works carefully beneath a shaded shelter. His tools are simple: small hammers, tiny chisels, clay molds, a charcoal fire burning steadily. Before him lies a delicate bracelet. Its surface catches the sunlight as he gently polishes every detail. Gold has traveled a long journey before reaching his hands. Perhaps it came from distant mountains. Perhaps it arrived aboard a merchant ship. Wherever it began, it has become part of Funan's growing world. Some customers purchase jewelry simply because it is beautiful. Others wear it to show their family's prosperity. Still others offer precious ornaments at temple as gifts to the gods. Objects often carry more than one purpose: beauty, faith, memory, status, all resting within a single piece of metal. As midday approaches, musicians arrive carrying simple instruments. A drummer settles comfortably beneath a tree. Another musician lifts a bamboo flute. Soft notes begin to drift across the marketplace. People continue working, yet many smile as the gentle music fills the warm air. Children pause to listen. A few begin clapping quietly to the rhythm. No grand performance has been announced. Music simply becomes another part of the day, just as naturally as birdsong or flowing water. Imagine sitting quietly for a while, watching life unfold around you. No one realizes they are living in what future generations will call an ancient kingdom. To them, this is simply today. A normal morning, a familiar marketplace, friends meeting, families working, children growing, merchants bargaining politely. Life always feels ordinary while we are living it. Only later does history recognize its importance. Perhaps that is one of the greatest lessons hidden within places like Funan. History is not made only by kings giving commands or armies marching across distant lands. It is also made by potters shaping bowls, by mothers preparing lunch, by fishermen repairing nets, by merchants shaking hands after a fair agreement, by children learning their first skills from patient grandparents. These quiet moments become the true foundation of every civilization. The marketplace continues to hum with gentle activity as the sun climbs higher overhead. Some boats prepare to leave with newly purchased goods. Others have only just arrived after traveling since sunrise. The river never truly rests. Neither does the exchange of ideas and friendships that flows along with it. As the afternoon slowly approaches, we shall leave the lively market behind and walk into the workshops of fun and skilled craftsmen, where wood, clay, bronze, stone, and woven fibers are patiently transformed into the everyday objects that quietly support an entire kingdom. As the gentle sounds of the marketplace begin to fade behind us, let us wander down a shaded path that follows the edge of the river. The afternoon sun now shines brightly overhead, but tall trees offer welcome patches of cool shade. Their branches sway softly in the warm breeze, and the leaves whisper together as though sharing ancient stories. The air carries a pleasant mixture of familiar scents: fresh-cut wood, warm clay drying in the sunshine, charcoal from small workshop fires, and the faint sweetness of flowering vines climbing over simple wooden fences. We are leaving the busy trading docks behind and entering another important part of life in the Kingdom of Funan. This is where things are made. Every kingdom depends upon skilled hands. Kings may rule. Farmers may grow food. Merchants may carry goods across the sea. But without craftsmen, everyday life would soon become very difficult. Imagine walking slowly into a quiet workshop. There are no large stone buildings or noisy machines. Instead, the workshop is open on every side, allowing the breeze to pass freely through. A roof woven from palm leaves protects everyone from the strong tropical sun. Wooden beams support the structure, while the smooth earth beneath your feet has been packed firm by many years of careful work. The first craftsman you meet is a carpenter. He sits cross-legged beside several long pieces of timber. His tools are simple: a sharp iron blade, a wooden mallet, a measuring cord, a small chisel polished smooth through years of use. There are no rulers marked with numbers, no electric saws, no loud machinery, only patience. The carpenter runs his hand slowly across the surface of a wooden beam. His fingers search for tiny imperfections. He knows that every tree has its own character. Some woods bend easily. Others remain strong and straight. Each must be used wisely. Nothing is hurried. He measures once, then again. Only when he is completely satisfied does he lift his chisel and begin carving. Tap, tap, tap. The gentle rhythm fills the workshop. Each careful strike removes only a small piece of wood. Little by little, a simple beam begins to take shape. Perhaps it will become part of a family's new home. Perhaps a fishing boat. Perhaps a bridge crossing a quiet stream. The carpenter may never know exactly who will use his work. Yet he shapes every piece with the same quiet care. Imagine a young apprentice sitting nearby. He watches every movement closely. Sometimes the carpenter speaks. Sometimes he says nothing at all. Many lessons are learned simply by observing. The apprentice studies how the older man's hands hold each tool, how he listens to the sound of the wood, how he notices details invisible to inexperienced eyes. Years will pass before the young student becomes a master himself. There are no shortcuts. Skill grows slowly, like a tree. Nearby, another workshop hums with gentle activity. Here, women and men sit together weaving cloth. Bundles of soft fibers rest beside them. Some have come from cotton plants, others from different natural materials gathered locally. The weaving frames are made entirely of wood. Thread passes carefully over and under, back and forth, again and again. The movement becomes almost like breathing. Steady, peaceful, unchanging. Imagine listening to the quiet click of the loom. It is a comforting sound, not loud enough to disturb conversation, not soft enough to disappear completely. Children sitting nearby hear this rhythm every day as they grow. To them, it becomes one of the familiar sounds of home. The cloth produced here is more than something to wear. It protects people from the sun. It keeps bobbies wrapped warmly against their mothers. It becomes blankets for sleeping, curtains for homes, bags for carrying grain, sails for boats. Sometimes beautiful patterns are woven into the fabric. Simple lines, gentle shapes, colors made from plants, tree bark, flowers, and minerals. Each color comes from the land itself. Leaves create soft greens. Roots produce warm browns. Flowers offer gentle yellows. Certain tree barks create deep reds. Nature quietly provides an artist's palette. As we continue our walk, the smell of warm earth grows stronger. Ahead, smoke rises from several clay ovens. We have reached the potter's quarter. Large piles of clay rest beneath damp cloths to keep them soft. Nearby, finished bowls dry slowly in the afternoon sun. Imagine placing your hands into a lump of cool clay. It feels smooth, heavy, full of possibility. The potter begins by kneading the clay carefully. Air bubbles must be removed. Small stones picked out. Every step matters. If the clay is not prepared properly, the finished pot may crack during firing. Again, patience becomes the greatest tool. The potter places the clay upon a simple wheel. Unlike modern wheels powered by machines, this one turns by hand or foot. Slowly it begins to spin. Gentle pressure from skilled fingers transforms the shapeless lump. The clay rises. It widens. It narrows again, almost as though it wishes to become a bowl all by itself. Within only a few minutes, a graceful vessel stands where moments earlier there had been only wet earth. It feels almost magical. Yet the magic comes from years of practice. Imagine the pride felt when an entire row of newly finished pots stands waiting in the sunlight. Every one slightly different, every one unique. Just as no two leaves are exactly alike, no two handmade bowls are perfectly identical. That is part of their beauty. Farther along the path, a quiet ringing sound catches your attention. Tiny, clear, musical. A bronze worker is carefully shaping a small bell. His charcoal fire burns hot enough to melt metal inside clay crucibles. Molten bronze glows like captured sunlight before being poured carefully into prepared molds. When the metal cools, it becomes strong enough to last for generations. Bronze tools help farmers work more efficiently. Bronze knives prepare food. Bronze ornaments decorate clothing. Small bronze bells may ring gently during temple ceremonies. Imagine watching the craftsman polish a newly finished bell. He lifts it carefully, gives it one soft tap. The note lingers in the warm afternoon air. Clear, bright, peaceful. Somewhere nearby, another craftsman carves delicate patterns into ivory. Only tiny pieces are used. Nothing extravagant. Small combs, hairpins, decorative boxes, objects that fit comfortably into a person's hand. His knife moves so carefully that each shaving curls away like a thin ribbon. One careless movement could spoil many hours of work. Yet his hands never seem to hesitate. Experience has made them calm. Not hurried, not nervous, simply confident. Throughout these workshops, one thing becomes wonderfully clear. No one works entirely alone. If a carpenter needs rope, he visits the rope maker. If the rope maker needs a stronger knife, the blacksmith helps. If the blacksmith requires charcoal, someone gathers wood from the forest. Every craft supports another. Every family depends upon many others. The kingdom grows stronger because people work together. Imagine a little girl carrying a basket of food toward one of these workshops. Inside are bowls of rice, grilled fish, fresh fruit, and cool drinking water. She smiled as her father pauses from his work. The family eats together beneath the shade before returning quietly to their tasks. Work and family are never completely separate. Children spend their day surrounded by skilled adults. Without realizing it, they absorb countless lessons. How to weave, how to carve, how to shape clay, how to treat customers kindly, how to repair a broken tool instead of throwing it away. Every ordinary afternoon becomes another classroom. As the sunlight slowly begins its gentle journey toward the western horizon, the pace of work changes ever so slightly. No one stops suddenly. Instead, each craftsman finishes one last careful task. One final bowl. One more carved beam. Another woven cloth. The workshops gradually grow quieter. Tomorrow, the work will continue, just as it has for countless seasons before. Looking around, it becomes easy to understand why travelers admired Funan. Its prosperity did not come only from trade ships arriving from distant lands. It also came from thousands of skilled hands quietly creating useful, beautiful things every single day. The greatness of a kingdom is often measured by its rulers. But its true strength lives in the ordinary people who build, repair, weave, carve, fish, farm, and create. They are the quiet heartbeat of every civilization. And as the afternoon light becomes softer, we shall soon leave these peaceful workshops behind and visit another place filled with gentle purpose, a sacred space where the people of Funan offered prayers, honored their ancestors, and sought harmony with the unseen world that surrounded them. The afternoon is beginning to soften now. The bright sunlight that filled the workshops only a little while ago has become warmer, gentler, and touched with shades of gold. Long shadows stretch across the paths between the villages. The air is still warm, but the strongest heat of the day is slowly passing. The craftsmen return their tools to wooden shelves. The potters cover their clay with damp cloth, so it will remain soft until tomorrow. The weavers carefully fold their unfinished cloth. Another day's work has been completed, not with great celebration, but with the quiet satisfaction that comes from honest effort. As we continue our slow walk, the sounds of carving and weaving gradually disappear behind us. Ahead, another kind of quiet is waiting. A quieter quiet. One filled not with silence alone, but with thought, gratitude, and gentle reflection. The people of Funan worked hard. They depended upon the rivers. They depended upon the forests. They depended upon the changing seasons. And because so much of life rested in the hands of nature, many people believed that the world was alive with unseen powers. Imagine following a narrow path beneath tall trees. Their branches form a cool green roof above your head. Sunlight slips through small openings in the leaves, creating bright patches upon the ground that seem to dance gently whenever the breeze moves. The air smells different here. There is the familiar scent of damp earth, but now another fragrance joins it. The soft perfume of burning incense. Thin streams of pale smoke rise lazily into the afternoon sky. Not far ahead stands a small place of worship. It is not an enormous stone temple like those that would later appear at Angkor many centuries afterward. Those famous monuments still belong to the distant future. The sacred places of early Funan are often much simpler. Many are built from wood. Some stand upon raised platforms. Others rest quietly beneath ancient trees, whose great roots have spread across the earth for generations. Imagine approaching one of these shrines. The building is modest. Its wooden pillars have been polished smooth by countless hands. The roof is covered with carefully layered palm leaves that rustle softly whenever the wind passes. Fresh flowers have been placed near the entrance. Clay bowls filled with clean water rest upon low wooden tables. Small oil lamps wait to be lit as evening approaches. Everything feels peaceful. No one speaks loudly here. Visitors naturally lower their voices. Even children seem to understand that this is a place deserving quiet respect. Inside, several villagers kneel before a small altar. Some bow their heads. Others place flowers carefully beside simple statues or sacred symbols. One elderly woman closes her eyes for a few moments. Perhaps she is offering thanks for a good harvest. Perhaps she is asking for good health for her grandchildren. Perhaps she simply wishes to spend a few peaceful moments away from the busy work of the day. Her prayers remain her own. Faith is often deeply personal. The beliefs of the people living in Funan were shaped by many different traditions. Long before merchants from India began arriving, local communities already honored the spirits of rivers, forests, mountains, and ancestors. Nature itself felt sacred. The great river that provided fish and fresh water was more than a river. It was worthy of gratitude. The forest that supplied timber, fruit, herbs, and shelter deserved respect. The land that produced rice was treated with care. People understood that they depended completely upon these gifts. Over time, new religious ideas arrived across the sea. Merchants and teachers from India brought stories about Hindu gods such as Vishnu and Shiva. Later, the peaceful teachings of Buddhism also found their way into parts of Southeast Asia. But these newer beliefs did not simply replace older traditions. Instead, something gentle happened. The ideas slowly blended together. A family might honor their ancestors while also respecting Hindu gods. A local spirit connected with a river could remain important even as new religious ceremonies became part of village life. There was room for both memory and change. This blending of traditions became one of the beautiful characteristics of early Southeast Asian civilizations. Imagine listening to a storyteller sitting beneath a great banyan tree. Children gather around him in a wide circle. The youngest lean forward eagerly. The older ones pretend not to be interested, yet they listen just as carefully. The storyteller begins with familiar local legends about the spirits who protect rivers and forests. Then, almost without noticing, he weaves into his tale the adventures of Rama or Krishna from India. To the children, these stories simply become part of one larger world. There is no sharp line dividing one tradition from another. Stories travel just as people do. They change gently with every generation. Nearby, a priest prepares for a small evening ceremony. His clothing is clean and carefully arranged. He carries a simple bronze bell. Beside him rests a clay bowl filled with fragrant incense. He lights one slender stick. A thin curl of smoke rises slowly into the still air. The pleasant fragrance spreads throughout the shrine. Those gathered breathe quietly. Some close their eyes. Others simply watch the smoke drift upward. There is no rush. Moments like these remind people to slow their thoughts, to notice the present, to feel gratitude for another day. Imagine the gentle sound of the bronze bell. One clear note. It rings softly through the trees. The sound fades little by little until only birdsong remains. No one speaks immediately afterward. The silence itself becomes part of the ceremony. Many ancient cultures believed that silence allowed the heart to become calm enough to hear wisdom. Whether or not they used those exact words, the people of Funan surely understood the comfort that peaceful moments can bring. Not every act of worship took place inside a shrine. Many sacred places existed in nature itself. A particularly old tree, a spring of fresh water, a large smooth stone beside the river, a hill overlooking the surrounding fields. Such places often became locations where people paused to leave small offerings. Perhaps a handful of flowers, perhaps fresh fruit, perhaps a bowl of clean water. The gifts were modest. The meaning behind them was great. They expressed respect, not ownership. Imagine a farmer finishing his day's work. Before returning home, he pauses beside an ancient tree whose broad branches have shaded generations of villagers. He places a single flower among its roots. He bows his head for only a moment. Then he continues walking. The gesture is simple, quiet, almost unnoticed. Yet small acts of gratitude have always been powerful. Children learn these customs by watching their parents. Parents learn them from grandparents. Grandparents learn them from those who came before. Without books or formal lessons, traditions continue, one careful example at a time. As the afternoon moves gently toward evening, families begin making their way home. Some stop briefly at the shrine before crossing the river. Others carry fresh flowers gathered earlier in the day. The soft glow of oil lamps begins to appear inside the sacred buildings. Golden light flickers against polished wooden walls. Outside, insects are beginning to sing once more. Their evening chorus grows stronger with every passing minute. The world itself seems to be preparing for night. Looking around, it becomes clear that faith in Funan was not separated from everyday life. It lived beside the rice fields. It traveled upon the rivers. It entered the workshops. It blessed family meals. It comforted the elderly. It guided children. It reminded everyone that, although human hands worked hard each day, there were still many mysteries beyond human understanding. And perhaps that quiet humility helped people appreciate the world around them even more deeply. As the sun slowly lowers toward the horizon, Smoke rises from hundreds of cooking fires across the villages. Families are gathering once again after another peaceful day. Soon we shall follow them home, where evening meals, gentle conversations, laughter, and the comforting routines of family life will welcome us into the calm embrace of another ancient night in the Kingdom of Funan. The day is gently drawing to a close. The bright golden sunlight that warmed the fields and rivers only a short while ago now begins to soften into rich shades of amber. The sky above the Kingdom of Funan slowly changes its colors, from pale blue to gentle orange, and then to delicate pink. Wisps of cloud drift lazily across the horizon, catching the last light of the day. As we leave the peaceful shrine behind, we notice that the village paths are becoming busy once again. Not with the hurried footsteps of people rushing to work, but with families returning home. A fisherman carries a basket resting comfortably across his shoulders. Inside, several shining river fish will soon become the evening meal. A farmer walks beside his children, his feet still covered with soft mud from the rice fields. His youngest daughter proudly carries a small bundle of fresh vegetables gathered from the family garden. Behind them, a grandmother smiles quietly as she balances a clay water jar against her hip. No one seems to mind the slow pace. The work of the day is finished. Now comes one of the most comforting parts of life: coming home. Imagine walking through the village as the evening breeze begins to cool the warm tropical air. The tall palm trees sway gently above you. Their long leaves rustle softly with every passing breeze. Birds that spent the day searching for food now return to their nests high among the branches. The louder songs of the morning have faded into quiet chirps and gentle calls. In their place, another orchestra slowly awakens. Crickets begin their evening music. Tree frogs answer from the nearby marshes. Somewhere farther away, a night bird calls into the gathering darkness. These sounds have filled the evenings of Southeast Asia for countless generations. To the people of Funan, they are as familiar as breathing. One by one, cooking fires begin to glow beneath the raised wooden houses. Thin streams of blue-gray smoke rise into the evening sky before disappearing among the trees. The wonderful smell of supper spreads throughout the village. Fresh rice steams gently inside clay pots. Fish roast over glowing charcoal. Bundles of leafy vegetables simmer quietly, with herbs gathered that very morning. Coconut milk bubbles softly inside another pot. Someone slices ripe mangoes for dessert. Another family peels bananas, while children wait patiently nearby. The smells drift together, creating the comforting scent of home. Imagine climbing the wooden steps into one of these family houses. The floor beneath your feet is smooth from many years of careful sweeping. Woven mats have been spread neatly across the room. The windows are open, allowing the evening breeze to move gently through the house. Oil lamps have not yet been lit. There's still enough light filtering through the walls of woven bamboo. The family gathers together naturally. No one needs to be called. After spending the day working in different places, everyone slowly returns to the same familiar space. The grandfather arrives first, carrying the fishing nets he repaired beside the river. He hangs them carefully where they will dry overnight. The father follows, placing his farming tools neatly against the wall. Tomorrow they will be needed again. The mother brings in the last bowl of freshly cooked rice. The grandmother arranges clay bowls for each member of the family. The children wash their hands using cool water poured from a large earthen jar. Simple routines, repeated every evening. Comfort grows from familiar habits. Imagine everyone sitting together on woven mats. There are no chairs surrounding a tall dining table. Instead, everyone sits close to one another. Meals are shared. Conversation flows naturally. A bowl of rice is gently passed from one person to another. Grilled fish is divided fairly. Vegetables are placed where everyone can easily reach them. No one takes more than they need. There is enough because everyone shares. As they eat, the family begins talking about the day's events. The father smiles as he describes seeing a pair of white cranes resting beside the rice fields. The children listen carefully. Such birds are often considered signs of peace and good fortune. The eldest son proudly tells everyone how he successfully helped guide the family's water buffalo for the first time, without making any mistakes. His younger sister laughs as she remembers chasing stubborn ducks away from the vegetable garden. The grandmother listens quietly, smiling as each story unfolds. Sometimes she laughs. Sometimes she gently offers advice. Her wisdom has grown over many decades. The younger members of the family value her experience. The grandfather begins telling a story from his own childhood. He remembers a season when the river rose higher than anyone expected. The floods covered the fields. Families worked together to protect their homes. Neighbors shared food without hesitation. No one was left alone. The children have heard this story before, perhaps many times, yet they never seem to grow tired of it. Stories repeated within families become part of who people are. They remind everyone where they came from, what their grandparents experienced, what lessons should never be forgotten. Imagine looking around the room. There are very few possessions compared to a modern home. A few clay pots, several woven baskets, wooden bowls, fishing nets, farming tools, sleeping mats rolled neatly against the wall. Perhaps a beautifully carved wooden box holding the family's most treasured belongings. Life is simple, yet simplicity does not mean emptiness. Each object has a purpose. Each has been cared for with respect. Nothing is casually thrown away. If something breaks, it is repaired whenever possible. A cracked basket receives new weaving. A broken fishing net is patiently mended. A wooden handle worn smooth by years of work is replaced rather than discarded. The people of Funan understand that good craftsmanship deserves a long life. As the meal comes to an end, the youngest children begin feeling sleepy. One little boy leans gently against his mother's shoulder. Another quietly rests his head upon his grandmother's lap. The day's adventures have filled them with pleasant tiredness. Outside, darkness settles across the village. One by one, oil lamps are lit inside the neighboring houses. Their warm golden light shines softly through woven bamboo walls. From a distance, the village begins to resemble a scattering of gentle stars resting upon the earth. After supper, work is not completely finished. The mother washes the clay bowls beside a large water jar. The father checks tomorrow's farming tools one last time. The grandfather finishes repairing a small section of fishing net. The older children help sweep the floor clean before bedtime. No one complains. Helping one another is simply part of belonging to a family. Soon, however, the work gives way to something even more peaceful. Rest. Imagine everyone gathering near the doorway, where the cool evening breeze drifts through the house. Someone begins humming a familiar melody. It is not a grand performance, only a quiet tune that has been sung for generations. The grandmother softly joins in. Then the children. The simple song fills the room with warmth. Music in Funan is woven into ordinary life. People sing while working, while rowing boats, while preparing meals, while comforting babies. Songs help memories remain alive. Some tell stories of ancient heroes. Others celebrate the changing seasons. Many are simply gentle lullabies, passed from one generation to the next. As the song fades, silence settles comfortably around the family. No one feels the need to fill every moment with conversation. The crackling fire provides its own quiet company. Outside, countless stars now cover the sky. Far from the bright lights of modern cities, the night above Funan is astonishingly clear. The great river reflects the moon like polished silver. A cool breeze glides across the water. Boats tied gently to wooden posts rise and fall almost imperceptibly with the current. The kingdom itself seems ready for sleep. Looking around this peaceful home, it becomes clear that the true wealth of Funan was not measured only in trade, gold, or fertile fields. It was found in evenings like this. Families sharing simple meals, grandparents passing on stories, children falling asleep surrounded by love and familiar voices, neighbors trusting one another, communities built upon kindness, patience, and quiet cooperation. These gentle moments rarely appear in history books, yet they are the moments that truly sustain a civilization. As the fire burns lower and the last conversations become whispers, the village slowly closes its eyes beneath the stars. But our peaceful journey is not yet over. With the coming of another dawn, we will discover how the Kingdom of Funan reached far beyond its quiet villages, becoming one of the greatest centers of trade in the ancient world, where merchants from India, China, and distant islands met along its life-giving rivers, carrying not only precious goods, but new ideas that would shape the future of Southeast Asia. Morning returns quietly to the Kingdom of Funan. The stars that watched over the sleeping villages slowly disappear, one by one, as the eastern sky begins to brighten. A pale golden light spreads across the calm waters of the great rivers. Mist rises gently from the marshes, drifting between clusters of tall reeds before melting into the warming air. The village awakens once again. Roosters call from beneath raised wooden houses. Fishing boats untie their ropes. Cooking fires send thin trails of smoke into the peaceful morning sky. The steady rhythm of another ordinary day begins. Yet today, instead of remaining in the villages, we shall follow the rivers all the way toward the sea. The rivers of Funan never truly ended. They widened. They divided. They joined one another. Finally, after winding through forests, rice fields, and wetlands, they reached the warm blue waters of the Gulf of Thailand. It was here that Funan opened its doors to the wider world. Imagine standing aboard a broad trading vessel. Unlike the small fishing canoes we visited yesterday, this boat is much larger. Its strong wooden hull has been built to survive long ocean journeys. A tall mast rises from its center. Heavy ropes secure a wide cloth sail that hangs quietly while the crew prepares for departure. Bundles of cargo fill nearly every corner of the deck. Each package has been tied carefully with woven fiber ropes. Nothing can be allowed to shift during rough seas. Every merchant understands how quickly a valuable shipment could be ruined if care is not taken. The captain walks slowly around the vessel. He examines every rope, every wooden beam, every paddle. He pauses to look toward the horizon, studying the wind. Ancient sailors learned to read nature with remarkable skill. There were no weather forecasts, no compasses as we know them today. Instead, they watched the clouds. They observed the stars. They noticed the direction of the wind. They understood the changing seasons. These quiet observations guided them across enormous distances. The sea rewarded patience. It rarely rewarded carelessness. Imagine the harbor slowly coming to life. Some ships are arriving after many weeks away. Others are preparing to leave. Dockworkers carry baskets balanced across their shoulders. Children run along the shoreline, waving excitedly whenever unfamiliar ships appear in the distance. Merchants greet old friends with warm smiles. Some have not seen one another for many months. The harbor feels alive, not noisy or chaotic, simply full of steady purpose. Nearby, scribes carefully record agreements using writing systems that have gradually arrived from India. Although many ordinary people cannot read or write, written records are becoming increasingly important for rulers and merchants managing larger networks of trade. Words once carried only in memory can now be preserved upon prepared surfaces. It is another quiet change shaping the kingdom. Imagine walking among the stacks of cargo waiting to be loaded. Large woven baskets overflow with polished rice. Nearby stand tall clay jars sealed carefully with wax. Some contain fragrant oils. Others preserve fermented fish sauce, an important seasoning enjoyed throughout the region. Bundles of dried herbs release pleasant scents into the morning air. Fine timber from inland forests lies stacked beside carefully carved ivory objects. Shining beads made from glass sparkle in the sunlight. Some have been crafted locally. Others arrived long ago from distant lands before being traded once again. Every object carries its own remarkable journey. Perhaps a small bead began its life in India. Months later, it crossed the sea aboard a merchant ship. Eventually, it reached Funan, where a local craftsman carefully wove it into a necklace. Years afterward, another trader carried that necklace farther east to yet another kingdom. One tiny object, many hands, many stories. Trade is rarely a straight line. It is a web connecting countless lives. As the crew finishes loading the ship, another group of travelers approaches the dock. Their clothing looks different from that of the local villagers. One wears a light cotton robe wrapped carefully around his body. Another carries a walking staff carved with unusual patterns. A third protects several rolled manuscripts inside a waterproof case. These visitors have come from India. Some are merchants. Some are scholars. Others are religious teachers. Each brings something unique. The merchants carry goods. The scholars carry knowledge. The teachers carry ideas. The sea transports them all together. Imagine listening to their conversations. One merchant speaks about bustling ports along the Indian coast. He describes markets filled with spices, whose scents drift through entire neighborhoods. He tells stories of elephants decorated for festivals, of temples where bells ring gently at sunrise. Nearby, another traveler listens with equal fascination before sharing stories of the rivers and forests of Funan. Learning flows in both directions. No one culture teaches everything. No one culture learns everything. Instead, people exchange ideas just as naturally as they exchange goods. This may be one of Funan's greatest strengths. It welcomes visitors, not blindly, not without caution, but with curiosity. Curiosity opens doors that fear often keeps closed. Imagine the captain finally giving the signal to depart. The crew unties the heavy ropes securing the ship to the dock. Long poles push gently against the riverbed. Slowly, the vessel begins moving away from shore. Families wave goodbye. Some sailors will return in only a few weeks. Others may not come home for many months. Ocean voyages require courage. Storms may appear without warning. Strong winds can change direction. Hidden sandbanks threaten every captain unfamiliar with local waters. Pirates sometimes haunt distant coastlines. Illness can spread quickly aboard crowded ships. Every voyage carries uncertainty. Yet generation after generation continues sailing. Why? Because the rewards are equally great. Successful merchants return with goods unavailable anywhere nearby. New friendships are formed. New knowledge spreads. Entire kingdoms become richer through peaceful exchange. Imagine standing at the front of the departing ship. The coastline slowly grows smaller behind you. Palm trees become tiny green shapes upon the horizon. The rivers that carried you here now empty quietly into the endless sea. Ahead lies open water, blue in every direction. Above, seabirds circle gracefully before gliding toward distant fishing grounds. Flying fish occasionally leap above the waves, catching the sunlight for only a heartbeat before disappearing again beneath the surface. The sailors settle into familiar routines. Some adjust the sail. Others prepare simple meals. A few repair ropes showing signs of wear. No one wastes time. Life aboard a ship depends upon everyone working together. There are no unimportant jobs. Even the youngest apprentice learns quickly that careful attention can protect every person aboard. As the ship sails farther from land, the wind strengthens slightly. The great sail fills with air. The vessel moves more smoothly now. The steady rhythm of the waves becomes almost hypnotic. Imagine sitting quietly against the wooden railing. The gentle rocking of the ship feels soothing. The endless sound of water surrounds you. It is easy to understand why ancient sailors often felt deep respect for the sea. It could provide wealth. It could bring disaster. Most often, it simply reminded people how small they were beneath the wide sky. Far behind us, the peaceful villages of Funan continue their ordinary day. Farmers tend rice. Children laugh beside the river. Craftsmen shape wood and clay. Life continues. Yet beyond the horizon, another part of the kingdom is equally busy, connecting distant civilizations one voyage at a time. The people living in those quiet villages may never meet the rulers of India or the officials of China. But through these ships, they are linked all the same. A bowl made by a village potter may one day rest in a foreign home. A story told beside a Funan cooking fire may travel with a sailor to another shore. A religious idea carried by one traveler may quietly influence generations, yet unborn. History often moves like the sea itself, not with sudden leaps, but with countless gentle waves, each one shaping the shoreline a little more than the last. And as our ship continues its peaceful voyage across the warm waters of Southeast Asia, we shall soon meet the remarkable travelers from distant lands, whose written observations would become some of the most valuable windows into the forgotten world of the Kingdom of Funan. The sea stretches peacefully in every direction. The gentle waves rise and fall beneath our ship with a slow, comforting rhythm. Above us, white clouds drift across a bright blue sky. The warm breeze fills the sail, carrying us steadily onward across waters that have connected distant lands for countless generations. For a little while, there is almost nothing to see except the endless meeting of sea and sky. It is a quiet kind of beauty, a beauty that encourages patience. Ancient sailors understood that long journeys were made one calm day at a time. Imagine sitting near the bow of the ship. The wooden deck has become warm beneath the morning sun. A sailor quietly repairs a fishing line, while another carefully checks a bundle of cargo to make sure it remains dry. Nearby, the ship's cook stirs a clay pot hanging above a small charcoal fire protected from the wind. The smell of warm rice drifts gently through the air. Breakfast is simple. Rice, dried fish, fresh water stored carefully inside large clay jars. Perhaps a little fruit, if any remains from the last port. No one complains. Simple food gives strength for long journeys. As the hours pass, someone standing high upon the deck shades his eyes and points toward the horizon. Very slowly, another ship appears. At first, it is no more than a tiny dark shape against the shining sea. Then, little by little, It grows larger. Its sail catches the sunlight. Its wooden hull becomes visible. Another trading vessel. Another peaceful traveler crossing the waters of Southeast Asia. The two captains guide their ships closer together. Not too close, just enough to greet one another. Voices carry across the calm water. Friendly waves are exchanged. Perhaps they ask where each ship has come from. Perhaps they share news of weather farther ahead. Maybe one captain warns of strong currents near a certain coastline. The meeting lasts only a few minutes. Soon both vessels continue on their separate journeys. Yet even these brief encounters help weave together the great network of trade stretching across Asia. Imagine how exciting such meetings must have been. In a world without newspapers or instant messages, another ship could bring precious news from lands hundreds of miles away. A successful harvest, a newly opened market, changes among distant rulers, safe harbors, dangerous storms. Every conversation carried value. Every traveler became a messenger. Eventually, our ship reaches another busy harbor. This one is larger than many of the smaller river ports we have already visited. Ships from many different lands rest quietly beside long wooden docks. Some have square sails. Others have sail shaped differently according to the traditions of their home ports. Their crews wear clothing unlike anything seen in nearby villages. The harbor feels wonderfully diverse. Imagine stepping onto the dock. Immediately, you hear many languages spoken all around you. Some conversations sound familiar to the people of Funan. Others seem completely foreign. Yet everyone smiles in much the same way. Everyone laughs. Everyone bargains politely. Human nature feels surprisingly familiar, even when languages differ. A merchant from India carefully unwraps beautiful cotton cloth dyed in deep shades of blue and red. Nearby, another trader displays carved ivory combs. A sailor from an island kingdom unloads fragrant spices, whose rich aroma fills the warm afternoon air. Another visitor carries bundles of aromatic wood valued for both perfume and religious ceremonies. The marketplace becomes a meeting place not only for goods, but for ideas. One of the most important visitors to arrive in regions like Funan is not a merchant at all. He is a scholar. Imagine a thoughtful man sitting quietly beneath the shade of a wooden shelter. Beside him rests a small writing case. Inside are brushes, ink, prepared writing materials. Throughout the day, he observes everything around him. He watches the ships arrive. He notices the clothing worn by local people. He listens carefully to conversations. Whenever someone explains an unfamiliar custom, he makes careful notes. Such travelers become historians without fully realizing it. Centuries later, their observations will help future generations understand places that have otherwise disappeared. Among the most valuable accounts of Funan were those preserved by Chinese scholars and officials. Some visited directly. Others gathered information from ambassadors and experienced merchants who had traveled there. Their writings describe a kingdom rich in trade, connected by rivers, and influenced by both local traditions and ideas arriving from India. Of course, every traveler sees the world through their own eyes. Sometimes they misunderstand unfamiliar customs. Sometimes they focus on unusual details while overlooking ordinary life. This happens even today. If two visitors describe the same town, each may notice different things. One remembers the food. Another remembers the architecture. A third recalls only the kindness of the people. History is often built from many different perspectives gathered together. Imagine speaking with one of these visiting scholars. He asks gentle questions. What crops do your farmers grow? How do your merchants measure value? What festivals do your families celebrate? Which gods do your temples honor? The local villagers answer as best they can. Sometimes they smile at questions that seem obvious. After all, they have lived this way their entire lives. They never imagined that someone from a distant empire would find ordinary village customs fascinating. Yet that is often how history works. The things we consider ordinary today may become extraordinary to future generations. Nearby, another visitor studies the boats built in Funan. He walks slowly around each vessel. He runs his hand gently across the smooth wooden hull. He asks about the kinds of trees used in construction. He watches experienced craftsmen repair damaged planks. Perhaps he hopes to build similar boats in his own homeland. Knowledge travels quietly. A useful idea observed in one harbor may later appear hundreds of miles away. Imagine a local child standing beside the dock. He watches these foreign visitors with enormous curiosity. Their clothes are different. Their hairstyles are unfamiliar. Some wear jewelry unlike anything made in his village. Others carry strange musical instruments or beautifully painted boxes. The child wonders where they came from, what their homes look like, what foods they eat. Perhaps one friendly merchant notices the boy's curiosity. He reaches into a small cloth bag and offers him a brightly colored glass bead. The child accepts it with wide eyes. He has never seen anything quite so beautiful. That tiny bead may become one of his most treasured possessions. Years later, he may tell his own grandchildren about the day he met travelers from across the sea. Simple moments often become lifelong memories. Trade changes more than economies. It changes people. It encourages questions. It inspires imagination. It reminds communities that the world is much larger than the familiar riverbanks where they were born. As the afternoon continues, the visitors and local merchants gather beneath shaded shelters to share food. Rice is served generously. Fresh fish is placed upon woven trays. Coconut milk cools the heat of the day. Someone offers sweet tropical fruit. Conversation becomes easier while sharing a meal. Smiles require no translation. Kindness rarely does either. Many friendships begin around simple tables. Imagine listening as stories pass from one traveler to another. One sailor speaks of towering mountains far to the north. Another describes islands where volcanoes send smoke high into the sky. Someone else tells of enormous cities beyond the sea, filled with temples, markets, and thousands upon thousands of people. The listeners are amazed. Some dream of visiting such places one day. Others are perfectly content to remain in Funan, happy simply to hear these wonderful tales. Both choices are equally valuable. Not everyone must travel to understand the world. Sometimes the world comes to you. As the sun slowly begins its journey toward the western horizon, the visitors prepare to continue their travels. Some will sail home. Others will journey farther east. A few may remain in Funan for many months, trading goods, teaching new skills, or simply enjoying the warm welcome offered by the kingdom. Each departure leaves behind something invisible. A new word, a fresh idea, a different way of solving a problem, a friendship, a memory. These quiet gifts often prove more lasting than gold or spices. Looking across the harbor one final time, it becomes clear that Funan was never isolated. It stood at the meeting place of rivers and oceans, of local traditions and distant cultures, of familiar customs and exciting new ideas. That openness helped shape not only Funan itself, but much of Southeast Asia for centuries to come. As evening approaches and the harbor grows quieter, We shall soon leave the busy docks behind and travel inland once more, where the rulers of Funan quietly governed their growing kingdom, balancing trade, tradition, diplomacy, and the everyday needs of the people who called this remarkable land their home. As the sun begins its slow journey toward the western horizon, let us leave the busy harbor behind. The voices of merchants become softer. The creaking of ships tied to the docks fades into the distance. The salty air from the sea slowly gives way once more to the fresh scent of rivers, flowering trees, and damp earth. Our path now leads inland, away from the crowded marketplaces, away from the busy waterfront, toward the place where the rulers of Funan quietly guided one of Southeast Asia's earliest kingdoms. When many people imagine an ancient king, they often picture enormous stone palaces, glittering crowns, and endless halls filled with servants. But the rulers of Funan most likely lived in a very different world. Their homes were probably built largely from wood. Their audience halls were supported by strong timber pillars. Their roofs were covered with carefully layered palm leaves or wooden shingles. These buildings would have been impressive in their own time. Yet because they were made from natural materials, very little has survived the passing centuries. The earth has gently reclaimed them. Only scattered traces remain beneath the soil. Still, with the help of archaeology and ancient written accounts, we can quietly imagine what life around the royal court may have been like. Imagine approaching the royal settlement early in the evening. A broad pathway leads toward a group of large wooden buildings surrounded by carefully tended gardens. Tall trees provide welcome shade. Flowering plants line the walkways. Small ponds reflect the golden light of the setting sun. The atmosphere feels peaceful rather than intimidating. Soldiers stand watch, of course. Every kingdom requires protection, yet they remain calm and respectful. Visitors arriving with official business are welcomed politely after announcing themselves. Inside the royal grounds, life follows a steady rhythm. Messengers come and go. Officials discuss the needs of different villages. Merchants request permission for trading agreements. Travelers from distant lands present gifts from their rulers. The king cannot meet every person personally. Instead, trusted advisors help manage the daily work of government. Imagine entering a spacious audience hall. The floor is made of smooth wooden planks, polished by countless footsteps. Large carved pillars rise toward the high roof. Open sides allow the afternoon breeze to flow gently through the building. Bright woven cloth hangs between the pillars, adding soft colors of red, yellow, and deep blue. There are no glass windows, only open views of gardens filled with birds and flowering trees. At one end of the hall sits the ruler. He is dressed simply but elegantly. Fine cloth wraps neatly around his body. Gold bracelets catch the warm evening light. A carefully worked necklace rests across his chest. His appearance reflects dignity rather than excess. A good ruler understands that respect is earned through wisdom as much as through wealth. Nearby stand several trusted advisors. Some are experienced elders who have spent many years serving the kingdom. Others are younger officials learning their responsibilities. Each brings different knowledge. One understands farming. Another oversees trade. A third manages relations with neighboring lands. Together, they help the ruler make thoughtful decisions. Imagine a village elder arriving after several days of travel. He bows respectfully before speaking. His village has experienced unusually heavy rains. Several irrigation channels need repair before the next planting season. The king listens carefully. He does not answer immediately. Instead, he asks questions. How badly were the fields damaged? Can neighboring villages provide assistance? How many workers will be needed? Good leadership often begins with careful listening. Perhaps the ruler decides to send additional laborers and supplies. Perhaps nearby communities are encouraged to work together. The goal is not simply to solve today's problem, but to protect future harvests as well. A successful kingdom depends upon healthy villages. The royal court understands this well. Soon another visitor enters the hall. This time it is a merchant returning from a long voyage across the sea. He presents several gifts gathered during his travels. A beautifully woven cloth from India. A small carved box made from fragrant wood. A polished piece of ivory crafted by distant artisans. These gifts are not merely expressions of generosity. They strengthen friendships between kingdoms. Throughout history, diplomacy has often begun with thoughtful exchanges rather than grand speeches. The ruler accepts the gifts graciously. In return, local treasures may be offered. Fine pottery, beautiful woven cloth, rare forest products, carefully crafted jewelry. Every exchange quietly builds trust. Imagine another messenger arriving just before sunset. He carries news from a neighboring kingdom. There has been a successful harvest. Trade routes remain safe. Travelers are welcome. The court listens with relief. Peace benefits everyone. Farmers can work without fear. Merchants travel more confidently. Families live more peacefully. While wars often receive great attention in history books, long periods of peace usually allow civilizations to flourish most successfully. Perhaps that is why Funan grew into such an important center of trade. Its rulers understood the value of stable relationships. Inside another nearby building, scribes sit quietly at low wooden tables. Before them lie prepared writing materials. Their task is careful and important. They record agreements. They preserve messages. They copy official documents. Writing allows information to travel farther than memory alone. Although only a small number of people possess these skills, their work helps connect villages, officials, and foreign visitors across great distances. Imagine watching one scribe at work. His brush moves steadily across the writing surface. Every character must be formed carefully. There is no hurry. Mistakes are difficult to correct. Concentration fills the quiet room. Outside, birds settle into the branches as evening approaches. Nearby, another official studies maps. These are not detailed maps like those we use today. Instead, they are practical guides showing rivers, settlements, and important trading routes. The rivers remain the kingdom's greatest highways. Knowing their changing channels helps everyone from merchants to messengers. As the court continues its work, servants quietly prepare the evening meal. Simple dishes are arranged upon low tables. Rice, fresh fish, seasonal vegetables, tropical fruits. Even within the royal household, meals are likely more modest than many modern people imagine. The greatest luxury is often variety rather than extravagance. Imagine the ruler stepping outside after the day's meetings have ended. The sky glows orange and purple above the trees. A cool breeze carries the scent of flowering plants through the gardens. For a few peaceful moments, the responsibilities of leadership grow quiet. He watches birds returning to their nests. He listens to frogs beginning their evening chorus beside the ponds. Perhaps he reflects upon the day's decisions. Leading a kingdom is never simple. Every choice affects many lives. Good rulers throughout history have often understood the importance of patience. A hurried decision may create lasting problems. A thoughtful one may bring years of peace. Not every ruler succeeds. History reminds us that some kings were wise, while others were less so. Yet the continued growth of Funan suggests that many of its leaders managed to balance trade, agriculture, diplomacy, and local traditions with considerable skill. Their success rested not only upon their own judgment, but upon the countless advisors, officials, craftsmen, farmers, merchants, and families who supported the kingdom every day. No civilization is built by one person alone. As darkness slowly settles across the royal gardens, oil lamps begin glowing beneath the wooden roofs. Their warm light shines gently through the evening air. The day's work is finished. Tomorrow, new visitors will arrive. New decisions will be made. New ships will enter the harbors. New harvests will begin. The quiet rhythm of the kingdom continues. And as night embraces the royal court just as it embraces the smallest riverside village, our journey will next lead us beyond the palace walls once more, where we will discover the remarkable network of canals, roads, and waterways that helped bind the Kingdom of Funan together, allowing people, goods, and ideas to travel across one of the ancient world's most connected landscapes. Night has passed quietly over the Kingdom of Funan. The lamps that glowed within the royal court have long since burned low. The villages beside the rivers rested beneath a blanket of stars, while gentle breezes moved across the wetlands. Somewhere in the darkness, fishermen checked their nets by moonlight. Somewhere else, a mother softly sang a lullaby to a child who had trouble falling asleep. Now another peaceful morning has arrived. The eastern sky slowly brightens once again. A thin layer of mist floats above the water, turning the rivers into ribbons of silver beneath the first rays of sunlight. As we leave the royal settlement behind, let us discover one of the quiet achievements that helped Funan become such a remarkable kingdom. Its canals. When we think about ancient engineering, our minds often travel to great pyramids, towering walls, or magnificent temples. Yet some of the most important achievements in history are much less dramatic. A well-built road, a sturdy bridge, a carefully planned canal. These simple works quietly improve the lives of thousands of people. Imagine standing beside a broad canal just after sunrise. Unlike the natural rivers that twist and turn according to the land, this waterway follows a straight path. Its banks have been shaped by human hands. The earth has been dug away little by little. Basket after basket. Day after day. Season after season. The work must have required patience beyond measure. Without modern machines, every handful of soil was moved by people working together. Imagine the sound of wooden shovels cutting into the earth. The steady rhythm of workers passing baskets filled with soil. Children carrying drinking water to their parents. Elders offering advice about where the banks should be strengthened. The construction of a canal was never the work of one person. It belonged to an entire community. Now, years later, the effort has become part of everyday life. The canal flows quietly through the countryside. Its water reflects the green leaves of nearby trees. Dragonflies skim gently across its surface. Lotus flowers bloom along the edges, opening their soft pink petals to greet the morning sun. A pair of white egrets stands motionless in the shallow water, waiting patiently for breakfast. Everything feels calm. Yet beneath this peaceful beauty lies an extraordinary achievement. These canals connected villages that would otherwise have been separated by marshes, forests, and winding rivers. They shortened journeys. They carried fresh water. They helped irrigate fields. They allowed merchants to transport heavy goods more easily than they ever could by land. Imagine climbing into a narrow cargo boat waiting beside the canal. Its owner smiles warmly and unties the rope securing it to a wooden post. With one gentle push, the boat begins to glide silently forward. The water is so still that the reflections of trees seem almost perfect. As you drift along, you notice that life unfolds beside the canal just as naturally as it does beside the rivers. A woman washes vegetables at the water's edge. Children splash happily in the shallows under the careful watch of their grandparents. A fisherman checks woven traps placed among the reeds. Nearby, two young men repair a small wooden bridge crossing the canal. Their tools are simple: wooden pegs, strong rope, a carefully shaped hammer. They replace one worn plank at a time. No bridge lasts forever. Like every part of the kingdom, it requires steady care. The people of Funan understood something very important. Building was only the beginning. Maintenance mattered just as much. Imagine a canal keeper walking slowly along the bank. His task is to inspect the waterway. Has a fallen tree blocked the passage? Have heavy rains weakened the banks? Are reeds growing too thickly in one section? Small problems are easier to solve before they become large ones. Quiet attention prevents future trouble. This lesson feels just as true today as it did 2,000 years ago. As the boat continues, the canal widens. Ahead, another waterway joins it. Soon, several boats gather where the channels meet. Some carry baskets of rice harvested only yesterday. Others transport freshly fired pottery wrapped carefully in straw. One boat is piled high with bamboo poles destined for a growing village farther inland. Another carries colorful woven cloth that will soon appear in one of Funan's busy marketplaces. Everything moves steadily. Nothing feels hurried. The canals allow heavy cargo to travel with surprising ease. Water carries burdens that would exhaust people on foot. Imagine one elderly boatman telling stories to his grandson as they travel together. The boy sits quietly near the front of the boat, listening with wide eyes. His grandfather points toward the canal stretching ahead. "I helped dig this section when I was younger," he says with quiet pride. The boy looks at the smooth water in amazement. To him, the canal has always existed. He cannot imagine a time before it. That is often the way with great achievements. The next generation accepts them as ordinary. They forget how much work they once required. The grandfather smiles. Perhaps one day his grandson will help maintain the canal for children, yet unborn. So the work continues, generation after generation. Imagine stopping beside a small canal-side village. The houses stand upon wooden posts, just as they do beside the rivers. Small gardens flourish nearby. Children wave cheerfully as boats pass. They have grown up watching travelers glide quietly along the water every day. To them, distant places never seem completely out of reach. A merchant from another village may arrive tomorrow. Relatives may visit next week. The canals make such journeys possible. In many ways, they shrink the kingdom. Places that once felt distant become neighbors connected by water. Along the bank, an elderly woman fills clay jars with fresh water. She pauses to greet passing travelers. Perhaps she asks whether they have heard news from relatives living farther north. One boatman replies that the harvest there has been excellent. Another mentions a festival planned for the coming season. News flows as naturally as the water itself. Imagine the changing seasons. During the rainy months, the canals become fuller. The surrounding fields drink deeply from the abundant water. The landscape turns brilliantly green. During the drier months, careful management becomes even more important. The people understand how precious every drop can be. Working together, they adjust channels, repair banks, and ensure that farms continue receiving the water they need. This quiet cooperation strengthens the kingdom as surely as any army could. A civilization flourishes when its people care for the land together. Archaeologists today have discovered traces of ancient canals in the regions once connected with Funan. Some stretch for remarkable distances, showing that careful planning guided their construction. Even after centuries of changing rivers, growing forests, and shifting landscapes, these ancient waterways still whisper their story beneath the earth. They remind us that the people of Funan were thoughtful engineers, not only traders, not only farmers, but skilled planners who understood how to shape the land gently without losing harmony with nature. Imagine our boat continuing through one final stretch of canal. The morning sun now shines brightly overhead. The water sparkles like scattered pieces of polished glass. Kingfishers dart suddenly from branch to branch, their brilliant feathers flashing blue and orange before disappearing once again into the trees. A gentle breeze carries the scent of flowering lotus blossoms across the water. Everything feels wonderfully peaceful. Looking around, it becomes clear that these canals were more than practical waterways. They were quiet threads sewing the kingdom together. Villages, markets, rice fields, royal settlements, sacred shrines. Every part of Funan became connected through this graceful network of flowing water. The kingdom breathed through its rivers and canals, just as the human body breathes through its veins. And as our peaceful boat reaches another bend in the water, we can already hear the joyful sounds of children playing nearby. Their laughter drifts across the canal like birdsong. Soon we shall leave the waterways for a little while and spend time with the youngest people of Funan, discovering how children learned, played, worked, and dreamed in one of Southeast Asia's earliest and most fascinating kingdoms. As our little boat drifts gently to the edge of the canal, the cheerful laughter of children grows a little louder. It is a happy sound, light, carefree, a reminder that every great civilization was once carried forward by small hands and curious minds. We step quietly onto the grassy bank. The morning sun is warm now, but a pleasant breeze moves through the tall palms overhead. Dragonflies dance above the water, their delicate wings shining like tiny pieces of glass. Bright butterflies wander from flower to flower, while small birds search for seeds among the reeds. Nearby, a village is already full of life. The adults have begun their work. Some are in the rice fields. Others have taken boats toward the market. Craftsmen sit patiently in their workshops. But not everyone is busy with heavy tasks. The children have their own world. Imagine walking slowly along a narrow path between the raised wooden houses. You notice a group of very young children sitting beneath the shade of a large mango tree. Their grandmother is watching them while gently weaving a basket. The smallest child is fascinated by a smooth stone found beside the river. Another carefully stacks small pieces of wood into a tiny house before laughing as it tumbles down. Their games require no expensive toys. The world itself provides endless treasures. Smooth shells, colorful leaves, soft feathers, seeds, flowers, pieces of bamboo. Children have always possessed a wonderful ability to transform ordinary things into extraordinary adventures. A simple stick becomes a boatman's paddle. A large leaf becomes a royal crown. A handful of pebbles becomes a busy marketplace. Imagination fills every quiet corner of the village. Imagine two brothers racing along the riverbank. Each carries a miniature boat carved from light wood by their father. They gently place the little boats into the slow-moving water. The tiny vessels drift with the current while the boys run beside them, laughing whenever one catches the breeze and moves a little faster than the other. No prizes are given. No one keeps score for very long. The greatest reward is simply the joy of playing together. Nearby, a little girl sits beside her mother. She carefully watches as colorful threads pass through a wooden loom. Her small fingers are not yet steady enough to weave an entire piece of cloth. Instead, her mother allows her to practice with a few simple strands. Patiently, kindly, no lesson feels rushed. Skills are introduced little by little, one quiet afternoon at a time. In Funan, learning does not happen only during special hours of the day. The entire village is a classroom. Children learn while watching, while listening, while helping, while asking questions. Imagine a young boy following his grandfather toward the river. The old fisherman carries several woven nets across his shoulder. The boy walks beside him, trying hard to match his grandfather's long, steady steps. When they reach the water, the grandfather does not simply tell the child how to fish. He shows him. He explains how to notice the changing currents, how to watch the birds, how to understand the seasons. The boy listens carefully. Some lessons require words. Others require quiet observation. Many years later, the child will teach these same skills to someone else. Knowledge flows through generations, just as gently as the rivers themselves. Of course, childhood in Funan is not only about work. There is always time for laughter. Imagine several children gathering in an open clearing near the village. They draw circles in the soft earth with sticks. Soon a simple game begins. Some chase one another between the trees. Others practice tossing woven balls made from dried plant fibers. A few climb low branches with remarkable confidence. Their laughter echoes across the village. Even the adults smile as they hear it. A happy village is filled with children's voices. Imagine the arrival of the rainy season. Dark clouds gather above the forests. Warm rain begins falling gently across the fields. Many adults hurry to protect baskets, tools, and drying grain. The children, however, often see something entirely different. Adventure. They splash through shallow puddles. They float little leaf boats along newly formed streams. They laugh whenever raindrops fall from the broad banana leaves onto their shoulders. To them, the changing weather is another invitation to explore. Their joy reminds the adults not to take every day too seriously. As the rain passes, brilliant rainbows sometimes appear above the wetlands. The children point excitedly toward the colorful sky. Perhaps an elder smiles and tells an old story explaining how the rainbow came to be. Ancient cultures often used beautiful stories to answer questions that science would explain much later. The children listen with wide eyes. For them, the story is just as wonderful as the rainbow itself. Imagine evening approaching after another busy day. The younger children gather around their grandparents. There are no printed storybooks waiting upon shelves. Instead, every story lives within someone's memory. The grandfather clears his throat. Everyone settles comfortably upon woven mats. Then he begins. Perhaps he tells the legend of Cambodia and Queen Soma once again. Perhaps he shares tales of clever animals who solve problems through kindness rather than strength. Maybe he speaks of river spirits protecting fishermen who show respect to nature. Each story carries a lesson. Be patient. Be honest. Help your neighbors. Respect your elders. Care for the rivers. Never waste food. Stories become gentle teachers. Long before children understand complicated ideas, they remember simple tales. Imagine one curious little girl asking endless questions. Why do the stars shine? Why does the river never stop flowing? Where do birds go when the seasons change? Her grandmother answers patiently, sometimes with careful observation, sometimes with old legends, sometimes by simply smiling and saying, "Perhaps one day you will discover the answer yourself." Curiosity is welcomed. It helps each generation understand the world a little better. Not every child grows up in exactly the same way. The children of wealthy merchant families may travel farther. The children of fishermen spend more time beside the rivers. The sons and daughters of craftsmen become familiar with workshops from an early age. Some children may later serve in the royal court. Others remain in quiet villages their entire lives. Yet nearly all of them share certain experiences: family, nature, community, responsibility. These become the foundation of their lives. Imagine a festival day arriving. The entire village gathers together. Children wear their cleanest woven clothes. Some have flowers placed carefully in their hair. Musicians begin playing gentle rhythm upon drums and bamboo flutes. The children dance without worrying whether every step is perfect. Parents clap proudly. Grandparents smile. Neighbors cheer one another. Festivals become treasured memories that remain bright even after many years. As the youngest children grow older, greater responsibilities slowly appear. The boys may begin helping in the fields or learning to guide boats. The girls may spend more time weaving, preparing food, or tending gardens. Yet childhood is not taken away suddenly. It fades gently, almost unnoticed. Each new skill brings a little more confidence. Each passing season adds another lesson. Each year draws them closer to adulthood. Looking around the village, it becomes wonderfully clear that the future of Funan does not rest only in the hands of its rulers or merchants. It rests here, in curious children, in patient teachers, in grandparents who remember old stories, in parents who lead by quiet example. Every generation receives the kingdom for only a little while, before passing it gently to the next. As the afternoon sunlight filters through the trees, the children's laughter slowly drifts behind us. Some continue their games beside the canal. Others hurry home to help prepare the evening meal. Their joyful voices become softer with every step we take. Ahead, another peaceful part of life awaits us. Soon we shall walk into the green forests that surrounded Funan, where towering trees, colorful birds, gentle elephants, clever monkeys, and countless other animals shared the landscape with the people who called this remarkable kingdom home. As the cheerful laughter of the children slowly fades behind us, our path begins to lead away from the village. The familiar sounds of cooking pots, weaving looms, and friendly conversations become softer with every step. Soon, they are replaced by another kind of music: the gentle whisper of leaves, the distant call of birds, the quiet hum of countless insects hidden among the branches. Ahead of us stretches the great forest. For the people of Funan, the forest was never simply a collection of trees. It was a generous neighbor, a quiet guardian, a place of both comfort and mystery. Imagine standing at the edge of the woodland, just as the afternoon breeze stirs the leaves overhead. Sunlight filters through layers of green, creating thousands of tiny patches of light upon the forest floor. Some places shine brightly. Others remain cool and shaded. The air feels different here. Softer, cooler, rich with the scent of damp earth, moss, and fallen leaves. Every breath carries the fresh smell of growing things. Towering trees rise high above us. Some have stood here for centuries. Their broad trunks are wrapped with climbing vines that twist slowly upward toward the light. Delicate orchids cling to old branches, blooming quietly among the leaves. Ferns spread across the ground, while thick roots rise from the earth like the backs of sleeping dragons. Everything feels alive. Imagine beginning a slow walk beneath the forest canopy. The ground is soft beneath your feet. Every now and then a dry leaf crunches gently. Small lizards dart between fallen branches before disappearing almost as quickly as they appeared. Bright butterflies drift lazily through shafts of sunlight. Some are brilliant blue. Others glow with shades of orange, yellow, or white. No two seem exactly alike. Above us, birds fill the air with gentle songs. A colorful kingfisher flashes through the trees before vanishing toward a nearby stream. Parrots chatter noisily among the highest branches. Farther away, the slow tapping of a woodpecker echoes through the quiet woodland. The people of Funan knew these sounds well. Many could identify birds without ever seeing them. Each call carried meaning. Some announced the coming rain. Others revealed where fruit trees were beginning to ripen. Nature offered constant quiet lesson to those willing to listen. Imagine meeting a village herbalist walking carefully along the narrow path. She carries a woven basket across her back. Her eyes move slowly from plant to plant. She is not gathering flowers simply because they are beautiful. She is searching for medicines. One leaf may soothe a fever. Another root may ease an aching stomach. Certain tree barks become healing teas. Fragrant herbs help wounds recover more quickly. Long before modern hospitals existed, people learned patiently from the forest itself. Knowledge passed from one healer to another, often from mothers to daughters, from grandparents to grandchildren. Every plant carried a story. Every remedy had been tested through generations of careful observation. The herbalist pauses beside a small flowering plant. She gently touches one leaf before smiling with quiet satisfaction. This is the one she has been searching for. She gathers only what she needs. Never more. The forest provides generously, but only if treated with respect. This understanding shapes daily life throughout Funan. Imagine hearing a distant rustling among the trees. At first, it seems like the wind. Then the sound grows stronger. Slow, heavy, branches sway gently. Out from the shadows steps a magnificent elephant. Its great ears move lazily as it walks. Its long trunk explores the ground, searching for fresh leaves and tender shoots. Behind it follow two younger elephants. They remain close to the older one, learning the paths that their family has traveled for many years. The people of Funan respected these enormous animals. Wild elephants were powerful and unpredictable. Some were later captured and carefully trained for work. A well-trained elephant could move heavy timber that dozens of people might struggle to lift. It could help transport supplies across difficult ground. It became both a working companion and a symbol of strength. Yet even trained elephants were treated with great care. Their intelligence was well understood. Imagine standing quietly as the elephant family passes. No one speaks. No one moves suddenly. For a few peaceful moments, humans and animals simply share the same forest. Then, just as gently as they appeared, the elephants disappear once more among the trees. Only broken branches and large footprints remain. Far above, a troop of monkeys leaps playfully from branch to branch. Young monkeys chase one another through the canopy with endless energy. Older members of the group watch carefully, always alert for danger. One curious monkey pauses to look down at us. Its bright eyes seem filled with endless questions. Then, with a quick swing of its tail, it disappears into the leaves. Children living near the forest surely delighted in watching these lively creatures. Perhaps they laughed whenever the monkeys stole fruit from nearby gardens. Perhaps they admired their cleverness. Stories about mischievous monkeys likely passed from one generation to the next, teaching lessons about curiosity, caution, and wit. Imagine reaching a small clearing where sunlight pours through an opening in the trees. Wildflowers bloom here in quiet abundance. Bees move patiently from blossom to blossom. Tiny humming insects fill the warm afternoon air with a gentle buzzing. Nearby stands a towering tree unlike any other. Its trunk is enormous. Its roots spread across the earth like flowing rivers frozen in place. The villagers believe this ancient tree is special. Perhaps they leave small offerings here from time to time. Fresh flowers, a bowl of clean water, a whispered prayer, not because they worship the tree itself, but because it reminds them of the age, strength, and mystery of the natural world. Throughout Funan, many forests were regarded with deep respect. They were places where people gathered food, timber, herbs, and building materials. Yet they were also places where one walked with humility. The forest was never fully conquered. It remained wonderfully wild. Imagine a hunter moving quietly through the undergrowth. He carries a simple bow. His footsteps are almost silent. He hunts only what his family needs. Perhaps a small deer. Perhaps wild birds. Perhaps nothing at all today. Many days, a careful hunter returns home empty-handed. Nature offers no guarantees. The hunter understands this. Patience is part of his craft. Respect is another. Taking more than necessary would threaten tomorrow's food. Living in harmony means thinking beyond today. As the afternoon slowly begins to fade toward evening, golden sunlight pours through the trees. Every leaf seems to glow. The forest becomes even more beautiful. The songs of daytime birds grow quieter. Evening insects begin replacing them. The air cools ever so slightly. Imagine sitting beside a clear woodland stream. The water flows gently over smooth stones polished by countless years. A dragonfly lands upon a nearby reed. For a long moment, nothing happens at all. And somehow, that quiet moment feels complete. Perhaps the people of Funan found comfort in places like this, after busy days in the fields or marketplaces. The forest offered peace. It reminded them that the world moved according to rhythms much older than any kingdom. Kings would come and go. Villages might grow or change. Trade routes could shift. But the ancient trees would continue reaching toward the sky. The rivers would continue flowing. The birds would continue greeting each sunrise. Looking around this peaceful woodland, it becomes clear that the forest was one of Funan's greatest treasures. It fed the people, sheltered them, healed them, inspired their stories, protected their rivers, and quietly watched over the kingdom through countless changing seasons. As the first colors of sunset begin appearing between the branches, we turn once more toward the villages. Smoke from evening cooking fires rises gently above the distant treetops. Another calm day is drawing to a close. Soon we shall discover how the changing seasons, the gentle rains, the warm sunshine, the yearly floods, and the patient rhythm of nature itself shaped every part of life in the Kingdom of Funan, guiding the work, celebrations, hopes, and dreams of everyone who called this beautiful land home.